So now let's try some of these methods out in Eclipse so you can get a better handle on how they work. As I said previously, we're not going to go through we're not going to test the more basic methods. They're pretty self-explanatory. So for example, these three here. If you want to test them out yourself in Eclipse, just copy this code out, play around with it if you want. It's pretty self-explanatory and pretty straightforward and easy to understand how these work. So let's try one of the more, or several of the more complicated methods, starting with equals here. Now remember, equals lets you test two strings between each other to see if they're identical. So let's go to Eclipse and let's create two strings. So string, the first one we'll call str1, new string, and inside that string we want this expression or this sentence, hello. And then we'll create our second string statement, so str2 for example, and in that statement we want this ole, which if you've noticed is hello backwards. So that being said, now we need to create a conditional statement. So if str, so our first string, and this is where we use the method, equals, like so, between parentheses, str2, then we want to print out both strings are identical. So that's for the case when they are identical. Otherwise, so else system .out.println both strings are different, for example. Like so. Let's test this out. Okay. So we've got a result of both strings are different because these strings are not the same. So if we wanted to make them the same, we'd name string 2 hello. It's case sensitive, by the way. So if you put a lowercase h, they'll be tested as different. They won't be identical. So hello like that. So they both should be identical now, so as you can see. So that's how you would use the equals method. So let's look at the other methods here. So length is pretty basic. We can try this one, char at. So this one, I'll explain what it does in Eclipse, that'll be easier. So let's delete this method here and start again. So let's start off by creating a string that we'll call again str, and we want it to say this. So that's our string here, Chatoris. And we want to type char result str.char at 3, and then we want to print out the variable result. So this method basically lets you display a character in your string at the index that you've input here. So we have our string tutorials, we have our instruction here, char with the variable that we've named result, and inside this instruction we've asked it to basically get the character that is at index 3. So we can count ourselves before we launch the program. So remember, indices always start at 0, not at 1. So 0, 1, 2, and 3. So here is 3. So the character at index 3 is O. So we've asked it to print out the result, the variable, sorry, named result, which is assigned to the index here. So let's run this, and as you can see, we get O. So that's how you use the char at method. Let's look at one of the last. Let's look at this method here, index of. Well, there are two methods, but we'll use them together. So let's use the index of and last index of method and see how that works. So let's go back to Eclipse. Let's delete this. So let's create our string. Again, str, we'll name it. New string tutorials. Same principle, same word. Okay. Now let's print out system dot out dot print line, name of the string variable, so str, and then I'm going to use the method index of, and then t, uppercasing. So basically what with this method index of, we're basically asking it to display the index of capital T. So if we do it ourselves, capital T is here, so the index should be 0. That's right, there are errors in my code. Okay. What is the... oh yes, okay, I see what I've done. I didn't put capital S, that string here. And I forgot to put a capital O here at index of. Yet be very careful, as you can see, if you don't type out the instructions correctly, it's case sensitive, so they won't work if you don't put the capitals where they're supposed to be. So now that should work. Okay, and as you can see, the index of T, of capital T, is 0. So let's try the other method now. System.out.println, again str, name of our variable, string variable, and now we want to use the last index of, and this will be T, but lowercasing. So what this is going to do is going to search for the last T in your string. So if we had several T's here, so if we added a T right at the end, like this, it would search the index of this last T and not the first one, here. So let's delete that. So let's this, if we do it ourselves, should have an index of 0, 1, 2. So let's see if that's the case. Okay, and as you can see, we have 2. Okay, and then last instruction, we're going to put a character that isn't even in our string. So str dot last index of, and let's say I don't know, z, which isn't in our string. So since it's not in our string, it should give us a result of -1. Is that the case? Yes, it is. So that's how you use string object methods. As we saw, we didn't use all of them, but most of them are pretty straightforward. I would suggest that you try them out for yourselves in Eclipse. And so yeah.